Hey everyone, it's Kim Seng from CaptainKimo.com, and in this video I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough on how I use Luminar with my HDR photos. So the photo we'll be using here is this photo I shot down in Jupiter. This is a photo of the Columbus ships. This is, I believe, it's either the Pinta or the Nina, one of the two ships, and I shot it during sunset. Now, this is with my Fuji X-T2 camera, and it's a great camera. I'm going to show you how I use or how I process photos with that camera. I use Luminar to get some very vivid colors in the images. So to start, what I do here is I will hit the auto. Now normally I would just automatically just merge it in an HDR software, but for this particular photo I am going to just merge it with the Lightroom HDR merge feature. So I do that by selecting all the three exposures. So let me reset this back, and so this is the even exposure, this is the overexposure, and this is the underexposure. And I shot this with a high vantage point. I kind of lifted the tripod up in the air, holding it, and using a shutter release to kind of trigger the camera. And there was movement, not a lot, but when I shot it with auto ISO, so you can see there's some movement, but not too much because it shot pretty quickly. And generally when I do something like that, I will put on auto ISO and I will try to shoot as fast as I can, which means I will open up the aperture. So you can see here it's shot at f4, and by doing auto ISO, the camera will pretty much adjust the ISO to the best ISO possible for hand holding. And also I believe I set the image stabilization on, so that helps out to keep the image sharper than it would normally be. So with that said, what I do now is I will merge three exposures. So select all three, and I just use the Lightroom merge feature. So we'll go into the photo and HDR here, and then Lightroom will kind of combine all the three exposures together to give you an evenly exposed image with some better dynamic range and a photo with less noise in the shadows. So in this image here, what I do is I just do auto light and auto tone. It doesn't have much features in Lightroom here, so all you have here for deghosting is none, low, medium, high. I usually always use just none, and then I'll just click the merge, and then Lightroom will merge the photos together. It will create a DNG file, and let me look for it. So let me click here. So it's kind of funny how it drops. So it drops it off to the end of my my album here in Lightroom, and let me click on that. And so here is the photo. So let me go back real quick to kind of compare the image here. I'll put it right here. So this is the HDR image. You can tell because it lost my place there. Okay, so you can tell that it's the HDR image because it has the HDR here with the .dng file, and that's Lightroom's merged HDR image. So here is the HDR image, and here is the just the single exposure. So if you go back here to the develop module and we do the auto, you can see the difference here. So we have more color, better color in the sky, and some better detail right here in the leaves, which you can probably do by just pulling up the shadow and then bringing down the highlights, but you can still see that it's sort of blown right in the sky. So with the HDR it helps a little bit, it helps a little bit here with the sky. So with that said, now I just do some slight adjustments maybe before I open this in Luminar. So maybe I will bump up the vibrance a tad, and then you see these little hot spots here that are in red. That'll That'll make me use the kind of the tools here, the little gradient tools here, to bring it down by just bringing down the whites. So I like to do that just to keep everything nice and even. And you can see here there's some really dark areas here. It's shown in blue, and I will use the same tool here, kind of just go around that top there and use black to kind of remove them. So with that done, all I gotta do now is I will do the export into Luminar, and then we'll start working in Luminar. I'll show you what I do there. So I'll use the TIFF with Lightroom adjusters. So click that, and then it'll open Luminar. Open this image in Luminar. So here we have the our photo here open in Luminar, and the reason Luminar is so great and it works so well with photographers, and why I'm using it more and more, is because it's designed for photographers. Like unlike Photoshop, where it's like an overall like the master design tool, it's just bloated. It has way too much stuff. For editing images, it's really unnecessary. So what Macphun did was created this program, Luminar here, to for just photographers to edit their images and make it look nice, make the sky pop, make the foliage pop. So let's get started. The first thing I'll do here is I'll show you something real quick in Luminar. So I will make the greens here better in the photo here by in the add filter. And this is how you work here. All these filters, it's just one big filter here in Luminar. So you got all these different filters here, and they categorize them all up here. So we have color. So if I want to, like, say, make the colors in the leaves better, I'll use foliage. And this is great because it's just a one thing, you know. You just click the amount and it'll make the greens greener. You can see it's getting greener. You can blast it if you want, and you can change the hue of the color. So let's say you want it more of a yellow fall looking color. This is a good way of creating greens and turning it into like a fall look. But for this, we're keeping it green. So let's bring it back. So right around there, I don't like my greens too green. I prefer to keep it a little on the yellowy reddish side. So I'm gonna bring this back down a little and just play with the colors to my liking, and I don't like it too vibrant also. So right about there is perfect. So now with that done, let me just go through all the other filters that they have here in Luminar. So I'll click the add filter again, and you have all these different types of color adjustments here. You have creative. You go through here, there's different creative stuff, and here's vignette. A very easy way of creating vignette. Unlike Photoshop doesn't have a way of doing this. You kind of have to do a pseudo version by using the lens correction. That's what I used to do, but this is perfect, makes it very easy. I just add this and then just kind of make the adjustments, and it creates the vignette for me. But I'm not going to use vignette here. I just wanted to show you, so I'll just click the X right down here to kind of pull this off. So one of the awesome things about Luminar is that it has layers, like in Photoshop. So what layers does, you can stack the layers and basically use it to affect certain areas that you want or don't want. So for instance, let's say I wanted to just do some adjustments in the sky. There's actually two ways of doing this. One way, you can add tonal enhancement here, and you have top and bottom lighting. Let's say you click that, and it's just limited to the exposure. So you can bring down the exposure from the sky, and then if you want the foreground brighter, you can bring the bottom half of the photo up. So that's one way of doing this. So we're just gonna click that off. The other way of doing this is using layers. You have layers in this top section here, and what you do is you add a layer, and you'll want to add a new adjustment layer, and then this will create a new layer for us to work with. And this layer here will we'll go ahead and just you can use anything. Let's say we're just adjusting the sky. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play with the, let's just do the curves, and then we'll just bring down the curve so that the sky looks darker. And let's go ahead and add another filter. We'll add another filter here, and we'll do the saturation. We'll go to color and just add some saturation and vibrance here. So we'll add a little more saturation and a little more vibrance. So let's say we just wanted to affect the sky with that. What we need to do is just create a mask, and there's two ways of creating a mask. You can use the brush, or you can use a gradient tool. Gradient tool would probably be best for this particular photo. So let's go ahead and click that gradient, and then we'll just drag it up and down this way like this, and you can see that it's affecting just the sky. So now we hit apply, and then it applies the gradient. You can see that this is the mask here, kind of like in Photoshop. So where the white is, that's where it's showing the whatever the filter is being used on this layer. So I can hit the little eyeball tool here or the eyeball here to kind of hide this layer, and you can see that this is what you'll get if you hide it. So if I were to bring the eyeball tool back, this is what gets affected with this layer right here. So, and this is unlimited, so you can just keep stacking layers on top of each other and just applying it to specific areas of the photo. So with that, that's another advantage of Luminar. It uses layers. So let's go ahead and add another layer here. So I'll just click here, add a new adjustment layer. And then what I want to do is use another filter. So all these are just filters. It's just great that they designed it like this, because this is just perfect for a photographer. You can just go in, get the filter you need, and then apply it. So another awesome filter I use a lot is this polarizing filter. So you click on that, and then you bring it down, and it'll just really enhance the blues. Waters and blues really look good with this polarizing filter. So this is before, and then this is after. So the photo is starting to look nicer and nicer. Right now I'm gonna add another filter, and we'll use the kind of like the shadows and the highlights here. So I'm gonna bring down the highlights a tad, and then bring up the shadows some. So that looks good right there, I think. And then my eye here is going to this little section here. To me, it looks a little dark. So maybe I will add another layer, and then I can brighten just this area up. Many ways you can do this, but with this, I think I'll just use just a simple exposure and just kind of slide that exposure up a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll use the paintbrush tool. Make sure you have it on this side of the area, so once you start painting, it affects just that. This is the area of the layer that the exposure went up on. So you can see here, this is before, after. I'm clicking the eyeball tool again. So this will erase the area that you don't want affected. There's a small little part there. I'm making the brush size smaller by clicking the bracket tools. So you can make it bigger or smaller by clicking the bracket tools. Same shortcut in Photoshop. So with that done, I think that looks pretty good right there. And then let's go ahead and do another layer. Throw in another layer there, and what we'll do is we will go to creative and use one of my favorite ones, image radiance, that I use pretty much on most of my photos. And let's go ahead and play with this. So we'll use the amount here, and you can just bring it up, and you can see right there what it does. It just makes the image look softer, more dreamy like, and that's one of the reasons I use this. Is just I don't like my images too sharp, but I like that soft, dreamy look. So I will bring it out to about 15. Looks pretty good. And then the image is starting to look good. I think most people who just like a natural image with a little pop would just say this is perfect. But for me, I like it a little more, like to get in on the photo, just make it go crazy. So I'm gonna go add another layer here, and then we're gonna use the curves layer. I'm gonna just bring down the whole the entire exposure some. So right there looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and add some more layers, some more filters here. Let's see what else they got in here. So let's go ahead, maybe even add another foliage enhancer to maybe bring out some more of the greens. I'll skip that. Let's go ahead and see what other no vignetting. So split toning I don't need. There's a split color warmth that I use a lot. This is cool because it just, like, say the warm colors you can just make warmer, and this, for this particular image, it really looks nice because of the sunset there. And then the cools, you can control the cools, and we want it, or I like it just a little cooler so it look nicer. So now with that done, I think I'm just gonna add another foliage enhancer because there's something with the leaves that's just not looking good. So I'm just gonna play around with it. So I think right about there looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and add some detail. We'll go into the detail here section, and you have structure. I like to use detail enhancer. We'll do that. So then we have choices between small details, medium, and large. So I'll go with the small detail first, and then maybe the large some. So let me go ahead and hide the just to make the photo a little big. I should have done this from the beginning. Hide the preset here. Preset window. There you go. So now we have just a nicer view, bigger view of the photo here. One of the things I do like about Aurora also is their preview. Their preview is just so much sharper and cleaner than I've experienced in Photoshop or Lightroom. It makes the photo look very clean, very sharp. And then I go to view it, like say in Lightroom or Photoshop, and it just doesn't look right. So that's another advantage of using Luminar. Is just, man, it looks good. It really looks good, especially when you have a 4K monitor, which is what I'm using right now. So with that done, I'm trying to figure out what else I can do to the photo to make it look good. But I think it looks pretty good right now. Maybe if you guys like the grungy stuff, you can go into structure and then add some structure into the image. You know, you can see just a lot more pop, kind of like an HDR. But for me, I think it just looks fine. Maybe a tad, maybe a little bit, right around 10 looks good. Let me see. Click right around this little dot here. That'll just show you before and after. And I like it. It looks good. I don't, however, like it up in the clouds. So what I'm going to do is, if I were to use, let's say, the layer masking here, that would affect the foliage and all that stuff. So, and I don't want that. I just want it to affect just the lower area. So we're going to go ahead and remove this filter. I do that by clicking this X here. That removes the filter from the photo. So what we'll do is we'll add another layer and then add structure in that layer, and then we can use we'll just go ahead and do, what was it, 10, and then we'll use the gradient tool, and I'm going to click drag from the bottom up, and this, you'll see that in our layers window right here that the white area is on the bottom, and that's what we want, because that's where the we want the structure to be affected, is on the bottom half. And then I don't need structure on the top half because I like my clouds smoother, not grungy, crispy looking. So with that done, I hit apply here, and this applies the mask onto the layers, and that looks good to me. Let's go ahead and hit the eyeball tool. So this is the before Aurora, and it looks good. Looks like an average photo. And then this is not Aurora, I meant Luminar. So this is before Luminar, and this is after Luminar. A lot of color, just a lot of pop in the greens, and it was very easy to do, not difficult at all. So all I gotta do now is just hit apply, and then it'll just bring it right back into Lightroom. Okay, so here we are back in Lightroom, and all I see is some reds up here. So I'll just, in Lightroom, all I'll do is I'll just fix the just the reds there, the blown out highlights, and then I'll fix the there's some small blues here down here, so I'll just hover around that and just bring up the blacks to fix the dark areas there. So that's it for my adjusting here, just to fix those things right there in Lightroom. So now let's take a look here. So this is the HDR version of the image that we created in Lightroom, and this is just a regular image. So this is the zero exposure image, and then we created an HDR image in Lightroom, and then we took this image and we enhanced it using Luminar. So go to Macphun's website and download, try Luminar, and see if you like it. If you like it, buy it. Use coupon code Captain Kimo. That's Captain K-I-M-O, and save 10%. So with that said, if you have any questions, just leave comments, or you can get in touch with me. My email is captainkimo@gmail.com. So until next time, Captain Kimo signing out.